Hello and welcome to Life That Matters. My name is Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott, and it is a pleasure to have you with me today. On this program today, you are at a very crucial part of this series. This is the last of our series on the book of Joshua. And so if you have missed any of the others, feel free to go back and find those other episodes, and you can see how we have been not only studying the book of Joshua and applying the lessons to our lives, but we've also been speaking to writers, those of you who want to become writers, or those of you who are writers and you want a little, extra boost in your writing. I have been applying the lessons from the book of Joshua to our writing lives. And so that's what we are doing at the end of each segment. If you're not a writer, hang on through that segment because it's very interesting to see not only how the books that you read are put together, but how the authors behind those books are inspired, encouraged, and challenged. All right. And so we are, as I said, at the end of Joshua, but it seems like we're still in the middle. And so it's just that Joshua chapters 10 through 24 are a roundup, okay, of everything that happened in at the end of Joshua's life as he led the children of Israel and then went into the end of his life and his death. And so we're actually going to cover chapters 10 through 24 more in outline form. And there's always something to learn from the Bible. So I hope that gave you enough time to gather your Bible, to gather the notes, maybe that you have been taking on this study. If this is your first time with us, thank you for being here. I trust it will not be your last, as next time we're going into a new and exciting series. And I'm not even going to tell you what it is. I'm going to hope that you are curious enough to tune in next time to find out. You won't want to miss it. So Joshua chapter 10 begins by telling us that the Amorites are defeated. So quickly, Joshua has led the children of Israel from the time of Moses' death into their crossing over into the promised land, and to start taking it over as God had promised them. So they have defeated the mighty walled city of Jericho. They have defeated the next city of Ai, and now they are going through the land to defeat these other nations. And so the Amorites are next. Chapter 10, we find out that they are defeated. And then at the middle of chapter 10, verse 28, we find out that Joshua also smites or defeats the southern cities. So the cities that, they're moving north, right, through the promised land. So they defeat all those southern cities. All right. Chapter 11, then they finish with the southern cities. Bam. They start defeating the northern kings. And Joshua says, the Lord says to Joshua in 11:6, be not afraid because of them. For tomorrow, about this time, will I deliver them up all slain before Israel. Thou shalt hoe their horses and burn their chariots with fire. All right, so God promises that. You can read the details in chapter 11 of how God destroys before them the northern kings. And then from 16 to 23, there is a summary of Joshua given you as a possession. However, it has not yet been taken over. But Joshua, what I want you to do right now is divide the land up among the children of Israel. Okay, but wait a minute. They haven't conquered it. No, that's right. You heard that right. They have not conquered the land, but God is saying to them, here's the land before you. Divide it up. I've given it to you as a possession. What do we see? What we see is that God is giving them land that is not yet conquered. So what's the plan? The plan is for them to visualize, here's the land. It's mine. Now I need to go and take it. So they are fighting for something that is already theirs. They are fighting for something that is already theirs. Put a pin in that. We're going to be right back to that point. So in verse 13, God says that. Then for almost the rest of the chapter, the land is divided. And so starting in verse 14, we get a breakdown into who's supposed to go where. And Caleb, who was one of the two spies, Joshua being one, Caleb being the other, way back with Moses, who went into the land and said we could take it. And the other people, the other 8 said, no, we can't take it. And they ended up wandering in the wilderness for 40 years until all those old people died, except for Moses, Joshua, and Caleb. All right. All of those people died. Then Moses made a mistake and he died too. So Joshua and Caleb were the oldest of all the people who came, and the children of those original people who left Egypt ended up being the ones who took over the land. So Caleb gets his particular inheritance. Judah gets an inheritance. Ephraim and Manasseh get an inheritance. Chapter 16 and 17. Chapter 18, the rest of the land is divided with Benjamin, Simeon, Zebulun, Issachar, Asher, Naphtali. Remember the 12 tribes of Israel. Dan. Joshua gets his portion. Then in chapter 20, there are cities that are set aside as cities of refuge. So when someone committed a crime or killed someone, especially killing someone, they could run to this city of refuge until they could be tried or until the high priest died, and then they could come out again. So the cities of refuge were set up. And then chapter 21, cities for the Levites, who were the priests, were set up, and Israel settles the land. Now, that doesn't mean they were done fighting, right? These were what they were supposed to go and take. And then in chapter 22, the eastern tribes, which were the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, those tribes were able to go back home. So they were in the land to fight with all the rest of the children of Israel to take over the land. And when the land was finished being taken over, they then could go back to the other side of the Jordan, and they had decided to settle that part. So they go back. And then in verses 23 and 24, Joshua gives his farewell address. And that is the end of the book of Joshua. So what does this have to do with us, right? How can we then apply this information to us? So remember where I told you to put the pin. I told you to put the pin in chapter 13 when God said, here is your possession. It's yours. but now you need to go take it. The land was given, but they had to work for it, fight for it, and take it. In other words, they were fighting not for victory, they were fighting from victory. They had already won. God had already said, this is your land. And God already said, be strong, I'm going to be with you. But you still have to get up, as my mother used to say, off of your rusty dusty and do the work to get it done. It's something like watching a rerun of a championship football game. Now, I hope I don't isolate myself from everybody else except Saints fans, but I am a Saints fan. All right. One of my sons moved to New Orleans, and I became a fan of the Saints football team. In 2010, the Saints won the Super Bowl over the Colts by a score of 31-17 on February 7th, 2010. Okay, so if I were able to watch that game again, I already know that the Saints have won that game. But that would not make it any less exciting for me to watch as they ran those touchdowns, or as they were not able to stop those, 17 points that the Colts got. I would still be on the edge of my seat, right? Watching the game and rooting until the last moment, till the clock ran out, for me to watch it and be excited once again to watch the Saints win. But they won that game years ago, right? But I'm not watching for the victory this time. I'm watching from victory. I already know we're going to win. And it's exciting to watch the win again, right? And so this is kind of what God is saying to the children of Israel. I've given you the land, so now go take it. You already know you won. So in our lives, God treats us like that. We've read the end of this book. We win. There is nothing that can happen in my life that can destroy me. Even if something tragic happens here on earth and I am killed before I want to die, I still haven't lost, because I'm going to be with God in heaven. So I am living not for victory, but from victory. Philippians 2:12-13 says this: Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Not fear like, oh, I'm afraid, but with respectful anticipation. For it is God who works in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. So I'm saved. I don't have anything to do to become saved. He's done all of that for me. Now that I am living in the reality of being saved, that I have salvation through the blood of Jesus Christ, now I am to live out what that means. I'm to live that out in my life. I'm saved. Oh, so as a saved person thinks like this, acts like this, moves like this, does this. See, I am no longer a child of the devil. I am a child of God. And because of that, I work out my salvation. I work from victory, not for victory. I take the territory, right, that has already been given to me. But I work and I fight to make sure I take it and hold it. Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your works unto the Lord and your thoughts will be established. I read that verse and for the longest, that sounded backwards to me. Shouldn't I commit my thoughts to God and I start thinking about things first and then I work them out? God says, no. The proverb says, commit your works to the Lord. So get up and get busy. And then God will tell you as you are moving, God will now tell you, okay, now go this way. Now turn left. Now turn right. I taught my boys how to drive. And until they were actually behind the wheel and turned the wheel on and actually moving the car, they were not learning how to drive. They were only learning how to drive when they were driving. And as they drove, I could then tell them, okay, slow down, speed up, be more gentle on the brake, turn to the right without, swooping out to the left first. All those things, right? Watch behind you, make sure you're looking, make sure you're using your mirrors. All of those things were now the thoughts they had to think as they were driving. Commit your works to the Lord, right? Work out your salvation. Now, in your personal life, as a writer, now how are you going to take territory as a writer? We have talked all this whole series, right? From the time you have your first thought until you are building your book and all of that. How now are you going to take territory and become a published author as the author that you want to be? Again, commit your works unto the Lord and your thoughts will be established. All right, get moving on that book. You've been saying forever, I need to write a book. Or other people might have been saying to you, you ought to write a book. And you've been thinking about that. That thought will not go away. That thought will not go away, but you haven't done anything. Well, guess what? The book is not going to write itself. You are going to have to write that book, and you are going to have to figure out how you're going to do it. So if you don't know anything about writing a book, step one, start learning. There are writers' conferences being given virtually and now back in person all over the country. I am a co-director of the West Coast Christian Writers Conference. The next one will happen in February of 2022. I will be speaking virtually at the Greater Philadelphia Christian Writers Conference. That is coming up as this program is being taped this same month. In 2022, the Colorado Christian Writers Conference is coming up. There's writers. All you need to type into the internet, into your browser is Christian Writers Conferences, and bang, you will get tons of them. All right. Or you can also contact me at authorizemenow@gmail.com to find out. I will give you information on writers' conferences. How are you going to take territory? You're going to take territory by starting to learn how to write. You're going to take territory by starting to write the book. I have given you tons of information just in this series on Joshua alone. I've given it to you. You can go back to those different tapes and find out. Or guess what? Watch this. You can open up your computer to an empty screen and start typing. Look at that. Okay? You don't even have to have a computer. Pens and pencils still do work on paper. Get started taking the territory and commit your works to the Lord. If you're a little bit farther along than, well, how do I get started? You may know that you will need a book proposal. A book proposal is a document that tells a publisher what your book is all about. You would start by giving the major theme, just one sentence, which would be what we call your elevator pitch. What is your book about? All right. If you can't say it in one sentence, then you don't know what your book is about. Contact me and we'll get that together. But what do you want to write about? A paragraph, definition, an overview, the objectives of the book. What do you want this book to accomplish? Things of that nature you would put in to a book proposal. You would also put in a book proposal who your audience would be. And it's not everybody. The only book that's been written for everybody is this one. And it's been done and it's a bestseller. So your book is not the Bible. So 99.9999% of the time, it is not for everyone. Perhaps you are writing to women. Perhaps you are writing to millennial young men. Perhaps you are writing to children ages 3 through 7. Who is your message for? And then tailor your message for that particular group. Take that territory. Also, once you figure out everything, there's much more that needs to go into a book proposal. You also want to brand yourself. Why do people want to listen to you? Why do people want to live in your territory? You might have a lot to say, but who's listening? Who really wants to know? And why should they? Right? So who are you? And what is your brand? What is the message that you are all about that people need? All right. My brand happens to be communicated in my tagline, which is live significantly. Anyone who comes in contact with anything that I offer will realize that what I offer is something that is going to help you live more successfly and significantly for God, be it in the area of writing, in the area of Bible study, whatever it might be, in the area of children's ministry. Whatever it is that I'm giving is for you to have a more significant life as a believer before you get to glory. Okay? So what are you all about? Why would people come to you? What are they going to get when they come to your territory? And that is the territory. Your brand then, see, is the territory that people are going to come to say, oh, I know where I can go to get XYZ. I can go over there. I can go over there, right? My audience, my audience, my readers, my social media followers, they realize that if they want some clues and some solid steps about how to live significantly, they can come to me. They can come to lifethatmatters.net. They can come to my website. They can come to my Authorize Me classes. They know that they are going to live significantly. They are going to have something to take away that is going to help them in this life. So what is your brand? Are you an encourager? Are you a comforter? Are you an educator? What? Why would people come? What is your territory? So I suggest to you today to take your territory. Take it. You are fighting not for victory, but from victory. God has given it to you. Rise up and work and take your territory and move out in the blessing of God. I am Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott. You have been watching Life That Matters. Be sure to pick up a copy of my latest book, A Woman God Can Bless. And I will see you with a whole new series next time.